right, so I decided to start with some few questions to help us before going into the section in deep. And please, how many of us here in your company you use Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel? Please, thank you. That's quite a number. What about Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Teams? All right, thank you very, very much. Okay, so the first question that I'm asking here is can you count the number of mails in your inbox, maybe daily, maybe weekly, maybe every month? So for example, someone like me, because of the team I work with, I receive up to like 50 mails in a day, roughly. Roughly. Sometimes it's lesser, sometimes it's greater. I know of some teams that receive up to like 70, 80 meals in a day, right? So that leads me to my second question, which is how many meetings do you attend in a week? Teams meetings. Yes, I know sometimes they just call you up into one meeting. Sorry, we apologize. I'm guilty, actually. Then to my third question, which is how often do you chat with your colleagues, on Teams or all of those other platforms you use within your organization? And to the very big questions before we kickstart is, what do you do with all of those data? The truth is, a lot of us just don't know we can leverage those data. We don't know we have access to all of those data. And that is what this section is really going to open your eyes into. Definitely, I can't show you every single thing about Microsoft Graph, but I would show you a bit, into the power you can harness from Microsoft Graph, either as a developer, as an analyst, or as a local developer, just like myself. All right, so let's just go into that. All right, so like they've mentioned, we are basically talking about harness the power of Microsoft Graph API for data to personalize user experience on low code. But like I said, I would also show the relevance across different other tools. All right, so who am I? I'm Oluwatobi Yusuf. I'm a low-code advocate. I advocate for low-code tools. I show the power of low-code tools and how you can leverage low-code tools to improve operational efficiency, productivity in your organizations, and even outside your organization. All right. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. I am a community leader. I love community a lot. I love to, gather, share knowledge, learn from the community, and that's why I'm here. I am also a Microsoft certified trainer. Sorry, I think I'll just skip that. But yeah, I'm a Microsoft certified solution architect. Yeah, I think I'm all around Microsoft. Then, last but not the least, I lead the business process reengineering team in my present organization, which happens to be AXA Mansard. And basically, I tell people what my team does is we understand the business. AXA Mansard is about insurance, about investment, about the HMOs and the rest. So we understand what it is, about all of the financial institutions, and we, optimize their process. We digitalize, we optimize, and we automate all of those processes. That's basically what my team does, and I happen to lead that team. So moving on to what you have today, how best do we start than to ask the question, what is Microsoft Graph? So look at Microsoft Graph as the pathway, the gateway that connects you to all of those data that you and your organizations do every day. So basically, you attend the meeting. How can I explain, or how can I tell that this is the number of meetings? How can I tell that these are some of the basic activities that are being done around the organizations every day? How do you analyze and tell that this developer is spending more time in meeting than actually having much more time to develop? How can you give insight into all of those data, organization data? And that's where Microsoft Graph comes in. It gives you that, that gateway, that path So it bridges that part and allows you connect with that. And there are a lot of things about Microsoft Graph. I've shared this slide, but please, you can feel free to connect with me so I can, drop the slide for you. Okay. All right. So Microsoft Graph is not just limited to your Microsoft Word and the rest. You can use it across different sections. Microsoft 365, Windows 10, enterprise, mobility, and security. And now, what does Microsoft Graph give you? For developers, you would know and agree with me that you would need to start, building APIs, REST APIs, and start connecting, bringing in the security and all of those things, to start leveraging all of those data, right? But this takes away that. So I see it more like this low-code platform that allows you leverage data, have insight into what your organization do every day, every week, every month. All right. And this is just more insight into Microsoft Graph. And it is not limited to all of this. But you can see from Microsoft Graph, you have access to see, the users within your organizations, messages, the people, their meeting, their devices, their chats, their teams, their calendar, their files, their groups, their chats, their tasks, their insights. And also, you can see the co-workers connected to either the individuals or to a team. All right. So Microsoft Graph, like I said, it exposes APIs to, link and see all of these informations. You can get insight from all of this information. Like I mentioned, the Excel and the likes of all of those, right? And now talking about security. Security is a very, very, very big issue when it comes to organization. Like I said, I happen to be a business process engineering, and one of the things my job allows me to do is talk to vendors, right? So because we leverage a lot of tools outside even Microsoft, right? So we talk to vendors, and when they bring a new tool, a new solution that they feel can help the insurance business or the investment business, one of the questions that is constantly asked is, how secured is that platform? How secured is my data? Because data matters a lot. You can't just allow your customers' data keep flying everywhere. In short, there are regulations for that. We have regulatory bodies that guide us, and they they find you, like, they find you really big time, right? So security is always a big key on this. And we all can agree also that Microsoft is one of the top organizations that takes security with utmost priority. They invest a lot, millions of dollars on security. And that security, this is also this also leverages that security. So meaning when you're using the Microsoft Graph, you don't need to worry much about security, because it falls under the Microsoft ecosystem, and all of their security, compliance and policies applies to this. Right? Okay. Then definitely, like I said, other devices, notification, and the rest. Okay, as well as Dynamics 365. So for those that don't know what we call the Dynamics 365, it is also part of the Microsoft family, like the CRMs, the ERPs, what we use, in relating to customers or for your finance and all of those things. So these are, platforms that already exist, right? So Microsoft owns them, and you can also connect to them, leveraging the Microsoft Graph. Okay, so what can you do, as an individual with Microsoft Graph, or as a professional, right? All right. So, like I said, unified endpoint. You can get endpoint to connect to all of this your data. We'll definitely do all of those. So I'll just try to round up all of this talk, first, so that we can go into all of those, deep dive. So unified APIs, right? You have APIs to connect to all of this rich data, which is what I was talking about. Wealth of data, right? I think when I was preparing for a section, I was just checking up some YouTube videos, and one of Microsoft's videos says there are about 3 million, you know, um, data information that you can pick up leveraging all of this within some organizations. right? So imagine the insight you can draw out of that data. The power set of services. So basically, it's similar to what I've been talking about, which is about the security and compliance aspect of the Microsoft Graph. Now, Microsoft Connector, let me talk about this a bit. Now, we would have questions. So Connector basically allows you to connect and get data even outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. All right, so I know some people ask questions about, okay, what if I'm not using a Microsoft product? Is there a way I can also get inside? Yes, Microsoft Connector allows you to do that, right? Okay, so then data connect to connect all of the data, either on cloud, on Azure, or on other tools. Yeah, so basically, like I said, these are different things you can access with Microsoft Graph. And now, how do you get started? So, like I said, you can connect with me so that I can get this, this slide, and you can, leverage all of this. So now, how do you get started? Microsoft Graph Explorer, and that's where we would, dwell, mostly today. That's how you get started. Now, there are documentations, Microsoft Graph documentations. I'm sure Microsoft write a lot of documentation about their products, right? This is just one of them. So they write a lot about, the Graph APIs, about how you can connect, and I think we would also look into that. Then for YouTube tutorials, now I picked this especially for us because it is a playlist. It's not just one. It's a playlist on how you can get started, right? From the beginners level to the intermediate level. And while I'm talking about Microsoft Graph, yes, my view might be limited. Like I am a local developer. I'm a little into data. I do a bit of data, not too much about it. So my view into how you can harness the power of Microsoft Graph might be limited to how I use it. So that means that me being here is just me opening your eyes to what you can use this to do. So meaning you yourself can do things greater, better than what I've talked about, right? So this is just more like an insider news and just more like an insight to just open your mind to what you can do with the Microsoft Graph API. All right. So we go to Microsoft Graph APIs and I'll talk about all of this. I think I should just navigate there. So, all right. Okay. So to get to the Microsoft Graph API, just graph.microsoft.com and you are there. Okay, so let me just zoom this. Yeah. So this is how you get started, like I said. Okay. All right. So these are materials that you can use, in leveraging all of these things that I talked about. There are a lot of things you can learn from here. Like I said, I'm just talking based on my own experience with Microsoft Graph API. Okay. Sorry, just a minute. All right. So okay. So while this is still loading, I'll just talk a bit more on what I have here. Okay, so yeah, looking at Microsoft Graph APIs, like I said, this is what we are coming to. You all know this is the URL. Now, APIs basically when you get APIs, you either want to write into them or get information from them. And the other things you can do, you can update, you can patch. We'll look into all of that. One thing about Microsoft products is that there's always an update, right? There's always an update to their product. So meaning, right now we're seeing version 1.1. There's also a beta version. In the future, definitely there'll be great higher version. This is where Microsoft work on their product. So most times when you see Microsoft products, you see some things, maybe their connector, you see things like a V1, like a V2, a V3, maybe 2.1, 2.2. It's just an upgrade, right? An upgrade. So that's basically what you have as your V version. Now, this is the API itself. This is where you run the query, right? The sample queries and all of the APIs, you can get them from here. That will be looking into. And one good thing about Microsoft is documentation. And I love what they did here, right? So for each of these, the documentation is just beside it. So once you click on them, you can get into the documentation. And yeah, I think that's basically what you have on, on this. Yeah, documentation. Okay, so documentation on each of them. So, on, for example, when you talk of my profile, right? Documentation on what you can do, what you can drag, information you can pull from my data. What are those things, you can pick up with the names, the managers, the direct reports, right? All of those informations. All right. So, yeah, so let's just dive into Microsoft Graph, and this is just something that I'll be, showing us today. Okay. So, all right. So I have two environments open, and the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to show you how security applies to Microsoft Graph also. Okay, so I'll just zoom this. So please, can we say this from the back? Okay, so I guess I'll just do more of the talking then. Okay, so I was talking about what you can see from here, right? So you're not just limited to get information, right? You can write some information through all of these APIs, right? That's where your post comes in. You can put, you can patch, you can also delete, right? It gives you all of those functionalities. So let's just even play around some things. And it's very, very easy to use, right? So let's play around some things. So let me just start with profile, right? Which is like the basic one. And I will just click on this run query. And one thing is, once you click on this, you get the API here. And this is what you need, right? This is what you need. All right. And when I scroll down here, so you can see these are basically my informations that I have on Microsoft, right? So when you come into an organization, you are being onboarded, right, into an organization, either as a staff. There are some information that are being updated on your Azure directories. So, for example, your line manager, right, your department, your team members, those are the things that are being done, right, on the Active Directories. Once you are being onboarded into an organization, yeah, that's not your part to worry about. But my point here is you can have insight into all of those informations, right? You can draw insight into all of these informations. You can even help, ease the onboarding process instead of them having to, fill some forms, get some information over and over again. I remembered when I got to an organization where I did my IT, and this organization was like a 9 different floor organization, right? And the HR was on the ninth floor. I went to the HR. I did, all of the onboarding, all of those. I needed to go for training, right? I went to the fourth floor for training. And those people needed some information. So they needed the HR to come and start sending some information, or start sending some information via mail and all of those, things. Meanwhile, we can have some tools, some applications that can help ease all of those processes. Why do I need to worry about that? Because that thing I had to also repeat it when I went to the second floor, I went to the third floor, and I think the sixth floor, about 4 different floors, just to complete my onboarding training. Meanwhile, you can have some simple tools that you can use. And they might start talking about, oh, getting developers to do all of this is a lot of work. Why do you have to go through all of those when you can leverage the Microsoft API to get all of those information quickly and easily without even having to code anything at all, right? So that's just one of the insights I'm talking about. All right. So yeah, and this is not just limited to your profile. So let's go to your pictures, for example. Let's look at this, and let me run this. So once you click on this, like I said, it's pops up the API here, and you're free to go with that. Then you can run all of this, right? And you can see my not too big head though. All right. So yeah, so it's not just limited to picture to text. So for those that might have the questions of is it just text and text, you can also draw image from all of these APIs, right? Also for developers that are there, you can also leverage all of this. Okay. Other things you can see are items trending about me. But let me just talk about the security part of this for a bit. Now, okay, so I'll just switch to another environment, and yeah, okay. I hope we can see this. All right, so let me just zoom in. Okay, so yeah. Sorry, I would need to sign in. But basically, what I was trying to show you by coming here is those queries I was running on my own environment to get my data. That's definitely anybody can run that. But to get information like items sending around me, things about the team, about the organization, that my account will get it. But this account would not get it. Why? Permission level. Now, on my own environment, this is my own organization environment that I created like a demo environment. And on this my organization environment, I am the global admin. That is, I had the highest level of permissions, right? But the person here is just I think, a user, right? And what you can see is just his own information. So, like, get his profile, you can see that. But other things outside that, anything that has to do with his team, anything that has to do with the organization at large, he cannot see it except in request for permission, right? And why am I bringing this to you? Is also to show you that yes, you can leverage this API to do a lot of things, but security is actually taking into they took security into account while doing all of this. So meaning security still applies. So the security you have from that your Azure Active Directories still applies here. So you can't go and do things that normally you won't be able to do. You can't access information that normally you are not given privilege to just because you have this API. So that I wanted to show you from here. All right, so let's just go into all right. So let's just go into other areas you can leverage all of this. So like I said, applications, compliance, teams, Outlook, people, SharePoint list, and the rest. Which I will show us how I leverage, some of this. So you're not just limited to all of this. There are other things you can also do with this outside what I've shown you here today. But let me show you how you can leverage this as a developer, right? Okay, so I just need to refresh this. So apologies, I think my network is coming in slow. Okay, so why this is still coming on? All right. So why this is still coming on? Let me just show us on the slide that I had the screenshots here just in case the network wasn't working fast. Now, as a developer, how do you leverage in all of these APIs? Number one is performance and speed. Now, as a low-code developer, right? In short, yeah, as a seasoned developer, that I believe anybody can be, right? Leveraging all of this low-code to build solutions. How can you leverage this? Speed. So there are sometimes you want to get some information. For example, you want to automate some things. Let's take the appraisal, for example. I remember when my organization also wanted to appraise people, right? We've done the appraisal, but they wanted to send out the result and individualize it to each and every one. So what that means is I'm Toby, right? I have Gift here, and I have, please, what's the name? I'm Peter here. Now, if I'm leveraging my local tools to do all of this, I would need to run through a loop, right? So meaning I have a document, right? A set document, and I build an automation. So now the automation goes and pick that document, put my name and the information that relates to me and send it to me. It does the same thing for Gift. It does the same thing for Peter. Now, let me explain how that works. How it works is it starts the process, it does for the same person, it tries to do for a second person, does for a third person, and imagine you have 1,000 staff, right? But when you're leveraging things like Microsoft Graph, it does everything just as a goal. So it removes that loop, right? That loop. So when it comes to performance, sometimes you want to do some things at work and you try to use some tools And you leverage the tool is just very, very slow. It keeps loading and loading, trying to get some information and all of those. That is performance, right? So now leveraging this graph API is very, very fast. It allows you to get all of those information at once. You don't have to start going through all of those loops over and over again. That's just one way. And this is just a practical example. Now, the person was trying to send some information into an Excel spreadsheet. So I think this has to do with maybe the HR or the rest. Trying to send information through an Excel spreadsheet. And this was just 10 informations, 10. And it's taking 14 seconds. So imagine you're sending about 1,000, right? You're talking about 1,000 seconds. Meanwhile, when he invoked or he leveraged the Microsoft Graph API, it just took a second to do all of this work. And funny enough, even for 1,000, it can't go beyond, say, 5 seconds or even 6, right? So that's also talking about performance. Now, talking about the low-code parts, let me see if, okay. All right, so talking about the low-code parts, how can you leverage this? There are different ways you can leverage this, but a very, very practical example, right, was me trying to get insight into what my organization already has. So now, a lot of us will agree that before you go to your organization, some people are there. And after you leave, some people still be there. Now, some informations are just hanging around, right? So a very good example is our SharePoint. Now, SharePoint is not necessarily a data source, like a document storage and the rest, but some people use it as a data source, right? And yes, before I got into my organization, they're already leveraging that. I'm still organization, they're still leveraging that. When I leave, they're still leveraging that. Now, there are some things that have been created that are just sitting there. But how do I get insight into all of those things? Because I can't see it on my own, right? Because I was not given direct access to all of those things. Except I have to start going through some, measures, checking some, environment and some other things just to get all of this information. But with Microsoft Graph, I was able to get every information that I needed at a go. All I just had to do, I wish my time wasn't this bad, I would have shown you a better example. What I just needed to do was just to pull the Microsoft Graph API, which was from here. So let me just get to this. Okay. All right. So all I just needed to do was to come here and get the SharePoint site API, which is under my SharePoint. Sorry. All right. Okay, so I decided to come to my SharePoint here and get my SharePoint site API as well as the list connected to that SharePoint, right? And all I needed to do as a low-code person was just to throw that into my application. Sorry. Let me see if this is up. Sorry, I guess I won't be able to do that, but I'll see I can, get that across to everybody. So all I just needed to do was to get the APIs, right, and connect it. So I even went extra level to put a search button, right? So what I did here basically was anything I input here or I search for here would show. So meaning I'm looking for a site that has names or stuffs like that. I put it here, and once I click on it, it brings it out. But if I don't put anything there, it brings out all of the list I have. And you can see this is like a drag down. And this is the link to the site directly. And what I now went to do, I now went extra further, another level down, to look into the site itself and to see all of the information sitting inside all of those sites, right? All of this, like I said, leveraging the Microsoft Graph API. This necessarily I might not be able to do it normally, but with Microsoft Graph API, I was able to leverage that API and get all of those SharePoint lists and look into all of this. Another thing you can do is your Teams, your Microsoft Teams. You need to drop some message on a chat, right? On maybe on a weekly basis, or you need to get some insight from your Microsoft Teams, the teams that you guys use to to chat, or even to get a summary. That's the good thing about the Graph API. You can leverage the Graph API, also leveraging your AI to compose and push out message, right? I really wish I could have done that demo, but I really can't. So you can also leverage that to get all of those informations and push. So I did one of those, and I was able to get a message posted to a channel that I was part of, leveraging this Microsoft Graph API. And like I said, this is just from my own, perspective, what I've done from my own angle. Now, for developers, you can also leverage this, right? Now, talking about developers, let's just go into our Graph APIs. You can get all of this in whichever code you want to. Whichever code you want to, right? You are not limited. As a low-code person, definitely I work with JSON, but as a developer, definitely might need it in Python, in PowerShell, in JavaScript, Java, or Go, or whichever language you want to get it in. You can get all of those information. Even you can get the adaptive card, the two components, and a lot of other things, right? You're not limited to just one language, right? There are a lot of things you can also get from here. So then let me just move on. All right. So my final question to you all will just be, how do you leverage all of this data for your own, for your own self? Either as a low-code person, either as a data analyst, either as a developer. There are a lot of things, like I said, you can do with the Microsoft Graph API. You're not limited to any of this. What I've just talked about is what I see from my own perspective, from my own angle, right? But you looking down into this or looking deep into this, there are a lot of things you can do and draw out from your Microsoft Graph APIs, a lot of things. I'm not just limited to what I've done, right? I've seen some people do some amazing things. Some developers build some amazing application outside of Microsoft, right? I've seen some applications where they needed to predict sales. They needed to get insights. And now this speaks into what a number of what organizations will really see as value. How do we predict, or how do we look into or create a model to tell that our sales would increase, or to tell someone is going to be a customer? How do we get insight into all of those things? Now, this can connect into all of your ERP tools, your CRM tools, your third-party tools, and you can get insight from all of those, right? And you can get insight from all of those to do the visualizations, to get all of those things you need to see. And my question to you would just be, how do you intend to leverage this to get insight into what you'd want to do? How do you intend to get insights into making your application more customer-centric, right? Okay. So finally, like I said, how do you plan to utilize Microsoft Graph, at your workplace as in any role you occupy? And with that, I guess I'll be coming to the end of my section. If you have any questions, please, I'll take your questions now. My name is Oluwatobi Yusuf. You can connect to me on LinkedIn via Oluwatobi Yusuf _. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, questions? Okay, sorry. Good afternoon.
My question is, how can we extract the data from the Microsoft? Like, I use Microsoft packages every day. I use Outlook, I use Microsoft Teams. Sure, my organization use Microsoft only, Microsoft Power BI and everything. So for this data that are on Microsoft Outlook and Microsoft Teams, how can we extract it for personal use from the Microsoft Graph? Do you get my question? Thank you.
All right. So when you want to extract all of those informations, definitely from the graph. Yeah. You just need to invoke this. It gets from this, and it gets you all of the informations you need based on what you are looking into them and what you are trying to. Come again. No. So once you are signed in, so apologies, I didn't talk about that. You need to be signed in. And one good thing is, if you are not even signed in, you can leverage, a sample data to leverage all of this. But once you are signed in, it now gives you those information that sits there. But like I said, you are limited to what your organization has given you access to. If you want more insight into all other things, you can definitely get approvals, right? So once I click on this modify permission, so it's a single sign-on. So just like once you log into your office.com and they're signing, they're automatically signed in. So if you say I didn't have to sign it, I didn't have to sign it when I came here. So like I said, so these are the permissions I didn't really talk about because of time. So these are permissions. I already have their permissions because, like I said, I'm the admin, the global admin of my environment. But the other account I was trying to show you does not have all of this right. So that account needs to request permission from me. I grant access to do that. I hope that answers the questions. And also, you're not just limited to get it from here. So you can put it in your application, in your. I've seen someone that did a visualization where they was pulling an API to do his own visualization. Though he's also a developer, but he was, visualizing, trying to get information from, somewhere, and he did a get and got the information from graph and did all of this. So I hope that answers the questions. Okay.
So thank you very much. My question is from the low code perspective. If you want to leverage on this, is there need for one to build a custom API where you use this URL, or there's a connector that can just help you achieve that easily? Thank you.
I really apologize that my network was bad. But so talking about the low code space, that's one good thing about low code, right? There's a connector you can leverage. The Office users or the Office 365 users, you can use to leverage because that is already a connector. And all you just need to do is just put that API inside that Office connector, and you're good to go. So talking about the low code part, you can leverage this information, even like I said, leveraging all of these connectors. And outside Microsoft space, definitely, once you can invoke an HTTP REST API, definitely you're good to go. That's all. You just need to put this API there, and you get those information. You can do whatever you want to do with it. So, like I said, this is more like an insight into what you can do with Microsoft Graph.
Okay, thank you very much. So you mentioned us signing in, right? Is it that once we sign into the Graph Explorer, we are going to automatically see those sample queries, like the profile photo? And then my second question is, I've seen where they install Graph SDKs on PowerShell, for example. Can you run the same codes that you run on Graph Explorer and to work the same way on PowerShell?
Yeah, it works similarly. Yeah, very true. It works similarly. So, like I said, it's a single sign-on. So there's no special requirement to sign in. So once you sign into in your organization, once you're signing into your organization, all you need to do is just go to graph.microsoft.com, and it brings you to this page, and you'll be signed in already. Just like your Outlook and the rest of them. The way it works, that's how it works. So it's just like one of those tools, but we are not really aware of that, right? So yeah, that's it. So is there another question? Oh, okay. Sorry, just one.
How can we, as a data analyst, how can I really apply this to that aspect?
All right. So as a data analyst, all of this, right? To be sincere, I feel as a data analyst, you might need to work maybe with a developer to help you get all of this into like a data source, right? And you can now, just look from that data source and do all of your visualizations that you need to do. So my point here is just all of this data is available for you. That's it. All you just need to just get it out, right? I hope that answers the question. All right. So I think with that, I would say thank you for attending this section. Have a great day. Thank you.